This radio show curates Japanese anime culture and economy. TORO Animation Research.
From essential recommendations to obscure trivia, this is Ryota Fujitsu's Anime Lab.
SBS Radio TORO Animation Institute. During this segment, our chief researcher, Ryota Fujitsu, will randomly introduce historically significant anime and present column-style discussions on anime-related topics. Now, over to you, Mr. Fujitsu.
I'm Ryota Fujitsu, an anime critic. Today I'd like to introduce the recently released film The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. While the original The Lord of the Rings was a live-action trilogy, this is essentially a spin-off created as an animation. It's quite groundbreaking and occupies a rather unique position. It's being distributed worldwide by Warner Bros. Headquarters in America, but what's remarkable is that it's directed by Japanese director Kenji Kamiyama, known for series like Ghost in the Shell SAC. It's probably quite rare for a Japanese anime director to create a film that gets a global simultaneous release like this. So I'm not sure if we can call it a first, but it's certainly a groundbreaking achievement. I've covered this project several times, and the director has truly been traveling all over the world for the world premiere and promotional events like Comic-Con. Warner is funding the production, but the actual production company or the main contractor is Weta Digital, the company that created the Lord of the Rings series. They're based in New Zealand, so the final touches are being done in New Zealand. After that, they've been going to Comic-Con in America and doing this massive world tour-like promotion. One big reason for this is that Warner is releasing this worldwide, so it's quite a huge project. What's more, Warner specifically requested that it be made in the style of Japanese anime, what's globally referred to as anime, that distinctive Japanese animation style. That's why they decided to make it as an anime. However, there are still considerations about budget, scheduling, and timing, you know. When you think about the schedule, it's really challenging. It's The Lord of the Rings, so there are horses, armor, and all that. The bar is quite high to do it all by hand. Plus, there's a chronic shortage of staff these days, making it difficult to gather animators. Creating a strategy like this under such circumstances is incredibly demanding. Setting aside how amazing Warner is, their production method is remarkable. When considering how to create such complex animation in a short period, director Kenji Kamiyama came up with the idea to use CG for the layout and initial drawing stages to ensure minimum quality standards. Animators then expand on that CG guide, drawing by hand. This way, the baseline quality is guaranteed. For example, drawing intricate armor details from scratch by hand would be challenging, but with CG guides in place, artists can reference them, which means they don't have to worry as much about perspective errors. The same goes for horse movements. There are limited animators who can draw horses well, but if the CG team has already created basic horse movements, it becomes feasible. The core is CG animation, developed as CG first, then converted to hand-drawn over the final year or so. That's why when you watch the end credits, there are tons of CG staff listed, but you wonder where their work is because it's barely visible on screen. So naturally, the beauty of hand-drawn animation still comes through. The soft expressions of characters and those subtle atmospheric elements really showcase the excellence of hand-drawn animation. So this is a 3D CG project directed by Kenji Kamiyama, distributed by Warner as a worldwide project. Director Kamiyama can pull this off because he has experience with both 3D CG and hand-drawn animation.
That's truly unique to director Kamiyama, isn't it?
Oh, that's right. That's how it's made. And about the story, The Lord of the Rings has this book called The Appendices, that's like behind-the-scenes world-building created by Tolkien himself, separate from the main storyline. It's basically background lore that the real fans get into.
Do you mean otaku people like fanfiction?
It's not like that. The original author, Tolkien, was kind of a nerd, you know? He had this whole... actually, the world I created was like this thing. And there's this appendix where the Helm's Deep appears in the story. And there's a brief historical explanation about why it's called Helm's Deep now. Apparently, there was a king named Helm long ago. That's where they got it from. In this story, a princess named Hera is the main character, but her name doesn't actually appear in the original tale. It only mentions that Helm King had a daughter who was forced to marry a lord from the borderlands, which led to complications, resulting in a war, and Helm King apparently died in the process. They've made this nameless woman the protagonist. The story is about how, even though her name wasn't preserved in history, she fought to protect her country and its people. This was created through a close collaboration between an overseas script writing team led by Philippa Bowen, who also wrote scripts for Lord of the Rings, and director Kamiyama. So it wasn't a case where they just handed over a script and said, do this. They worked on it together.
Is it like creating an original story from fragmentary settings?
Yes, indeed. So the character Wolf, who appears in the appendices, the one Hera is almost forced to marry, the backstory between this character and the protagonist Hera, was actually an idea proposed by director Kamiyama that was adopted into the story. I think this shows how Japanese anime can bring various creative innovations to the table, and it's one example of the cross-cultural process that allows Japanese animation to reach global audiences. So with that, I really hope you'll watch The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. It's fascinating and definitely worth seeing.
How did you enjoy this episode of SBS Radio's TORO Animation Institute? TORO Ani is broadcast live every Monday at 7 p.m. on Japan's SBS Radio. Please be sure to tune in. This has been Ryota Aoki, host of SBS Radio's TORO Animation Institute.